Well, Jake, man, I'm excited to chat here. I want to let you know first and foremost. I know you guys have since relocated, but you'll be happy to know that winter is in full swing here in Michigan. I know you don't get to experience it quite like you used to, but we got a lot of snow on the ground here.
Excellent. I'm missing that, I'm missing it. I have to get back and do all the things that, one would do with the snow. It's a shame because, it's like sort of having moved to Nashville, it's like we get cold, but we don't get snow. So it's just like I don't know, it's a bummer, but gotta
Do
get
you
back.
find yourself as a Michigander like complaining about the way people drive when you do get a little bit of snow in Tennessee?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't fathom it. It's unbelievable. People pull over on the side of the road and like, park and abandon their vehicles under bridges and, like grocery store parking lots. It's unbelievable. It's a different world, man, because if you're from Michigan, it's like, well, that means nothing, It's like
Yeah, you're not running out to like stock up on milk and bread and stuff. You'll be good.
exactly. I think yeah, we'll make it through.
Are you going to have a chance? I know it's tough with you guys' schedule to get back here. Are you guys going to have a chance to get back home around the holidays?
Yeah, I think so. I think we always typically are able to get back in, during Christmas at the least we try, and I think we will be back around for the holidays, for Christmas at the least.
Well, we're excited to have you back and excited for what you've got going on right now, which is Mirador, and it's something that sort of has been in the works now, and you guys have been sort of messing around with this for a handful of years. Let's start way back when Fox Theater Detroit, a show that I was at. Ida May opens up the show. They're playing three shows with you guys. Is that your first time that you meet Chris and you see Chris and see his band play?
Yeah, that would have been around the first. Yeah, that would have been the first time. And we sort of had some dates, a European tour, where we were, supposedly, we were supposed to have Ida May then, and that was rescheduled. So yeah, we sort of invited them to participate in the some of the North America dates that we had scheduled, and yeah, I think the Fox Theater was the one of the first in Detroit. We had two nights there, I think, or something. And yeah, that would have been the first time I saw Chris and Steph play in Ida May, and it was incredible. That was like, I don't know, it was evident to me, I think, that they had something that a lot of other bands don't have. And in particular, as a guitar player, I was somewhat fascinated with Chris's approach to that instrument. And it was like, again, there was an authenticity and a richness and a density to which he was playing, and I sort of, in some ways, it was a connection, and there's a connectivity. It's that strange and reoccurring sort of metaphor in some ways that music is sort of a transcendence of voice. It's like, it's a language, and in so many ways I could hear what they were doing, and I could hear what, I could in some ways I'd gotten to know Chris just through his guitar playing, before we'd actually bumped into each other, and kind of knew each other after that. So it was a strange and unique circumstance. Yeah.
Yeah, at that point, I mean, you guys had shared the stage with all sorts of bands, and it sounds like this was the first time after having shared the stage with all those other bands. This was the first time that you sort of felt that connection, even before having met.
Yeah, to me, definitely, it was palpable. And again, I think, I've certainly been in love with a lot of groups and a lot of artists that we've met along the long, long road. But I think in particular what Chris and Steph are doing, and again, to Chris specifically as a guitar player, it was calling to me in a very personal way. I think, and again, that sort of that friendship, there's an evolution to that, I think, in many ways. And it was, I think we'd come from a very similar place, you know what I mean? And I'm, obviously from small town in Michigan, and he's just from a small town called Norfolk in the Eastern Isles of England. So it was like we had a lot in common in terms of actually growing up and, getting into trouble and playing guitar and the musical influences. And it kind of goes beyond that, I think, in many ways. It was a soul connection as another sort of brother. And it was interesting because I think early on playing guitar and breaking, the ice, there was a sort of a creative connection, I think, that I hadn't really experienced with anyone other than my brothers, for musically and artistically. And so it was something that was sort of evidently there, and it was like sort of calling to me in a way. And again, like, there is the sort of adulation for, Greta Van Fleet in so many ways, and the mass response to that, and the success in so many ways that group has created. And so to me, it wasn't like I was really out searching for another, sort of alternative project or some I had my hands tied enough, within the realm of that sphere. But in some ways, I think that there was something that was beyond me in this sense that was sort of, in essence, I think, calling me to do this with Chris. And so I'd asked him, it was years later, and we were, in Nashville, sort of during COVID, and I sort of baited him to come over to my house in East Nashville, which I had an old Victorian house there at the time, and it was like one day we were going to write, it was like, let's just write some things, and let's not like preconceive anything. There was no ambitions, or goals or expectations or, objectives. It was like, let's just see what happens. And by the end of this first day, we'd written 2, 3 songs, which is an incredibly rather fast writing process. It was quite expedited. I hadn't worked with anyone that quickly before, and like same, I don't think Chris had either. So it was like, let's see what happens on day 2 and 3. And like, by the end of the week, we had like half of a record done. It was this frenetic, wild, sort of untamed energy that was just, there was something going on, capturing lightning as it was striking from the sky, so, but that was kind of some of the ethos. At that point, I was just sort of going, maybe we should do something a little bit more, a bit more formalized in a way. And it was like, it could have very well been, Chris and I on acoustics and vocals, and that would have been cool too. In many ways, that's part of the band. That's part of the ethos of it. The origin, certainly, that's how it started. But I think the material we were writing was quite ambitious. It was like, okay, we need 2 guys who can come in and not only support this, but sort of affect it in a way, and lend to whatever is going on creatively, artistically, musically. And so, we found Nick Peedy and Mikey Svabella, and that's kind of how they were tied into it.
So when you and Chris get together for the first time after you've played shows, you've played together, I'm sure on the road just messing around, you start writing those first songs on that first day. Is there a point while you're in the middle of, I don't know, song 2, song 3, you think to yourself like, okay, we're not just messing around here, like this could actually be, this could be something, even though I'm not necessarily looking to do something?
Yeah, that was kind of, that became evident, I think. And again, really the idea was just, oh, let's just play together and write some things, because we have a similar sort of, I think we're coming from a unique, similar creative sort of origin. I think we're sort of writing and thinking in certain terms. And it was like, it would be fun, and in some ways an experiment, to see what happens if we were to write together. And it was about day 2 or 3 where I, started in my mind the formulation of, okay, there's something a bit more, there's something a bit beyond the veil here, and I can't quite, pierce, and that was like, yeah, I think to your question, it was like something had to be done. It was like, I don't know. There was a call of almost a responsibility I felt in some odd way, in some unique and foreign way, and that was being called to do this in some ways. And I think Chris felt similarly, that it was worth exploring the parameters and the horizons of this potential. What could be there if we were to truly go there to the next sort of steps, the next level.
So you have this thing that you're building with Chris, and you're sort of building a brotherhood with him, but you also have this other thing with your actual brothers.
Yeah.
Are they kind of aware that like you guys are messing around? When do you tell them that you're like, hey, we have this thing that I might also go do? I've never been in a band. I've never been in a band with my brothers. I don't know how this sort of the dynamics work as to, hey, I'm going to do this other thing for a minute.
Well, I mean, I think historically speaking, and I think it's like, it really depends on which brothers you end up with. But as there are so many bands of brothers historically that have been sort of, there could be barbarity, an element of, intensity and I don't know, but I think in many ways it was good. I think, as much as we could give each other and as much, things that I think, again, it's the evolution of that relationship with my brothers in many ways. We were at odds, I think, our entire lives, but I think, having come together and traveled the world and in some ways, in so many ways, it becomes so much like it's the four of us and that versus the world. There's a sort of shared kinship and sort of, you know, a shared philosophy and an essence of unity that brought us closer together. So, long story short, it's like I think that they were into it. They were into the idea of sort of, I think that's the creative exploration in many ways. I think if anybody sort of goes, I'm interested, or I'm drawn to, or I'm called to do this, it seems to be a collective epicenter of some appreciation, some form of that. And it's like, I think for any other reason that we would go, oh yeah, if there was envy or if there was jealousy or if there was sort of spite, it might be, well, screw you, like you're leaving us or you're leaving the band or you're leaving whatever. And then it's not necessarily like that. It's sort of like there's a vision and there's a call to arms, in a way. And I think that again, collectively for us as brothers, it's like, you know, it's like go on then, go and do it and figure out what lies beyond that, beyond that place. And it's the artistic exploration. I think that's really an inspiring thing.
And with that artistic exploration, I mean, I'm guessing that with Mirador, that both you and Chris had ideas and things you wanted to do, maybe that didn't necessarily fit Greta or Ida May, that you could then bring into this project.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It was very much like, there were, I wouldn't say that there, are certain things that like within the realm of Greta that it can't be, touched upon or can't be explored. But there were certainly things that seem to have drifted out of the realm of, focus, I think, because there was such an evolution to Greta and there's so much, that where that band had started and where it's gone and where it's going, currently is sort of left certain influences and certain, opportunities to explore, genres in certain styles of music and yeah, certain sort of approaches behind in many ways. And I think that is in similar and to a certain similar effect the case for Chris as well with an Ida May. There are certain like a language or a vernacular and a sort of world that these bands live in, and stories that they can tell at a certain period of time in a certain place, and I think so all of these influences that I was, so much in love with and sort of further exploring the foundations of blues music and sort of cultural music and sort of some of the ancient roots of some of this stuff, like into Alan Lomax or Eastern European music or, traditional Sufi Indian music or ancient tribal African music or whatever it may be. That was like, it was a complete wiping of the slate, a blank canvas, a new foundation that could be built upon something entirely new through the framework and lens of Mirador and sort of the artistry of Chris, myself, and Nick and Mikey, So that was exciting. It was like boundless to the possibilities.
And then you guys have this idea, so you write these songs, but you don't release anything. Instead, you're playing shows before anyone hears a song from Mirador, which is fascinating to me because you guys had played, I mean, not only the show's opening for Greta, where you were doing double duty, but you did like a whole headline show before anyone had necessarily heard anything.
Yeah. Totally. I think, I mean, in many ways, that was the trial by fire, It was like, it seems like anything that this band was best destined to do was like forged in the crucible, you know what I mean? It was just the absolute, it's like this high pressure makes something, someone could say that high pressure makes, something beautiful or diamonds, but it makes something interesting, I think, at the very least. So I think with Mirador it was that, yeah, it was the first, basically, we'd kind of gotten together, all four of us, at our studio in Bath in England, maybe or a few months prior to this, to see, if Nick and Mikey Sorbello, drummer, would work within the framework of Mirador. And so we had maybe a week there. We played together. That was the first time that we'd ever all collectively sort of played together, and blew the roof off that place. And they're still rebuilding it.
I've
But
got a crew here that can fix it. I know. They're
yeah,
doing it
that's
right
it.
now.
Okay, yeah, send them in.
I'll
Yeah,
send them your way.
when they're done on the roof over there, Matt.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was, but yeah, so it's basically like, okay, the possibility now, sort of, Greta's going back and doing the Arena North America tour, and it was like, well, what if Mirador was, and this wasn't an idea that I came up with necessarily, but it was something that, my brothers and actually our manager had suggested that, oh, what if Mirador was to open for Greta? I'm like, that's a great idea, guys. Really throwing me to the fire. It's like easy to say, right? Good idea. I'm really glad that you guys came up with this for me. But it was so fascinating. It was interesting enough that it was like, okay, yes, this is going to be interesting. And the fact that Mirador really, that was at the basic point of, sort of, not even its origin, but the foundation of this thing, and we hadn't really played together for more than that week. So it was like, all right, we'll spend, and it was interesting too, because I think Greta was rehearsing here in Nashville in one building. And next to it, there was another rehearsal space. It was a bit smaller, and that's where Mirador rehearsed. So I would walk from rehearsals in sort of the morning with Mirador over then to the afternoon to rehearse with Greta. So I was sort of, it was double duty, all hands on deck at that, from the sort of start point. And then it was sort of getting on the road, and we had 3 days of rehearsals or something like that. And Mirador walks out, and the thing was, okay, we've got these arenas, there's like, 12, 15,000 people every night, but who knows how many people are going to show up for Mirador, which was first of three. There was another opener after that. And to the sort of this enamorment and surprise, there was, about 8,000 people. And that was every single night of that tour. People were coming in just wondering, what is this? What's this Mirador thing, what could this be? And so that added, again, I think, to the pressure. There was going to be this level, I think, of scrutiny as well, where people were like, well, this is Jake, and he's coming from Greta. So what could that be? And there's a huge amount of pressure to sort of deliver something wholly original, unique, powerful, unbridled, and with reckless abandonment, and all of that. So it was again an added pressure, but it was quite surprising, all of these people showing up. And I think we landed where we wanted to, luckily enough. And then when that set was done, I would go get ready for about an hour, come back out and play a headlining set to the rest of them.
Was there, with all that pressure, was there comfort in the fact that you're going to play this set with this new band, but in an hour you're going to go back and you're going to look to your right and your left, and you're going to see your guys, you're going to see your brothers. So was there comfort in that, as opposed to sort of being out on your own with this new thing right off the bat?
No, not necessarily, because for me, and I think it's the way that I perform, there's sort of an intensity. I think I'm always kind of looking over my shoulder in a way that it's a total performance, and it requires, for me, the way that I sort of approach it and always kind of have, is a total presence of mind, body, and your spirit. And so with Mirador, it was like going out and sort of, I think, personifying everything that you could, and like sort of drawing everything I could from myself. And that role was very different, sort of having been put in a sort of a position to be singing as well, and playing, and that sort of interaction and that sort of connection is very different. I'm not sort of entirely focused on playing guitar anymore, and sort of laying the foundation for the rest of the band. It's sort of like, stepping forward into the realm of, I guess, I don't know, it's just a sort of a different a different space and a different sort of characterization of myself. And so it was like doing that, going back, sort of shedding the armor, and putting on the new suit and strapping on a different guitar. And that mindset began to, shot of tequila. The mindset and the transition begins again, where I begin to metamorphosize or something. And it's like, okay, now I'm, you know, Jake and Greta again, and I'm the guitar player here. And so walking back out, that pressure again was I'm going to do give every bit of myself that I possibly can to now this performance. So in that way, there was like sort of a double-edged sort of intensity. It was sort of these two things that I was really trying to give my all to, So, but it was brilliant. It was exciting and sort of liberating too at the same time.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I might be considered a masochist, but I'd probably do it again. Yeah, I wouldn't give it up. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was an eye-opening experience for sure.
So the album is out now. You guys have played a bunch of shows. You just wrapped up a tour overseas. What's the plan moving forward with the Mirador? As I mean, I know you guys are gonna break the holidays. Is Mirador sort of what's coming up in 2026?
Well, there's a lot coming up in 2026. There's a lot on the strange horizons, you know what I mean? And so yeah, lots in the works, I think from both projects and things outside of those projects. And there's going to be a unique and quite a polarizing year, I think, in 2026 from all angles, So exciting and dangerous.
I appreciate you giving us a glimpse, man. We're looking forward to seeing what you guys have going on in 2026, whether it's Mirador, whether it's Greta, or whether you end up back on the big screen playing in Bruce Springsteen's band. Who knows what could happen?
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks for having me, Matt. It was good.
I appreciate it, man. It's always good to talk to you. You guys have always been great to us, and we're looking forward to seeing you here next year.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it. Come to the show or shows or screenings or whatever is going on. Hi.
We'll all be there, man. You know that this area is, supports everything you guys do. So wherever you're at in Michigan, we'll come out in full force.
Yeah, man. It means a lot. Thank you.